Hello and welcome back to PlayIPredict.com. You can probably tell by the smile on my face and not as much of a smirk as he was in the last couple of weeks on the other side of the screen to me. It is, of course, Sean O'Sullivan. Sean, firstly, thank you for joining us again today. Another
Thanks, Jonathan.
eventful week in the good old kind of championship is back. A
Yeah,
lot of different stories.
championship is back. Yeah. Obviously, it was in the middle of the Storm Eden, which wasn't ideal for players up and down the country trying to play in those conditions, Jonathan. But look, everyone knew that, with the championship penciled in for this time of the year, it was always going to be, you're always going to have that possibility that conditions are going to be tough. But in fairness, now I didn't see all the games, but I saw the majority of them, and hats off to the players. They served up some excellent games considering the conditions were so bad. I think particularly above in Ballybofey, which was the main game really between Donegal and Tyrone. I think both teams put on a very, very good show for the supporters, considering it was like a monsoon up there. I think somebody mentioned if the game had been a few days earlier, mightn't have gone ahead with the pitch and everything been waterlogged. So fair play to the ground staff up there as well to get it going. So championship is back, but not as we know it, I suppose. But look, it's back anyway, and you were obviously delighted because you had a fantastic weekend's predictions.
Yeah, well, I was wondering actually. You're right. I've just been, it's got a bit going on the last couple of days. I didn't get a chance to actually check over the results and check over my predictions more likely. And I was wondering, it all makes sense now. I don't think I'd got a message about you until was it yesterday about it. It's all starting to add up again. But there is, of course, there's 9 teams gone from the Gaelic Football Championship, which is just remarkable. At
Crazy,
this time of year, I think we all knew that the knockout championship was going to be introduced. We knew it was there, but still, there's a little part of you when you see the likes of Tyrone gone, you're like, oh, they're one of the teams that you fancy to go all the way. They were a team that you probably, had they got over Donegal, particularly the conditions this time of year, it's without, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but they're a team that you would have thought would have thrived under those conditions as well. But that was there's been some, and of course we have up to quickly look forward to the weekend as well. I said there's 9 teams gone. I suppose in effect, really, there's 10 teams gone, sadly, with Sligo not able to fulfil the fixture there as well. So look, obviously the first thing is the players' health is far more important than any game of football or any game of hurling or any sporting game for that matter. So look, obviously we wish them well there as well. It was a tricky situation that they were in. And I'm not sure there's a difference of opinion. What was the right course to do? Maybe in a way with the issues ongoing, maybe it was the responsible thing not to put any more risk onto the players. And we talked about this before. Going back to the parents, and we won't go. I know you want to say a word, but we won't go too deep on it.
No, we won't. I suppose there's obviously the two difference of opinions out there. Is number one, could Sligo have fulfilled the fixture by, they'd surely find 15 guys from somewhere. People mentioned play the under-20s and get the fixture fulfilled. I think it was, somebody mentioned, I think it was Tomás O'Shea mentioned Fermanagh were struggling a few weeks ago with numbers due to COVID, and they fulfilled the fixture down in Clare. And then you have the other side of the coin where people are just saying, look, there's a lot of cases within the Sligo squad, and it would be a little bit irresponsible to try and round up more guys to come into that camp and play a game of football. So look, whatever camp you're in, it's the bottom line here is it's just a disappointing situation. But unfortunately, with the way it's going on at the moment, Jonathan, it was a situation that was probably always going to raise its head. And unfortunately, I can't see it being the last situation before the year is out. So it is what it is. It's horribly disappointing for Sligo and their management and their players who were looking forward to giving Galway a good rattle at the weekend. And it's disappointing for Galway because now they face into a Connacht semi-final next weekend with no game under their belt, which isn't ideal for them either. But look, at the end of the day, you said it right, and we won't delve any deeper into it. People's health is the most important thing here, and I think Sligo have probably made the right decision at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's just disappointing from a sporting point of view that a team was knocked out of the championship without having kicked a ball in anger. But look, as you said, it was always going to happen even. it's probably not going to be the last team, sadly, either. The way things are going,
No.
we see cases can potentially spike so quickly as well, and then people in isolation as well. So, yeah, a real sign of the 2020 times, sadly. And look, not the best result. Our situation, I know from speaking to some of the people in the Galway camp as well, they would have preferred to play a game of football and try and get a bit of confidence and momentum and everything else.
Yeah, of course.
But it's another week now, and what is it? 3 more buys to the All Ireland, and we'll all be happy out.
Yeah, it shortens Galway's path all right to Sam Maguire for you, Jonathan, which I'm sure you're happy with.
Yeah, well, look, obviously you never like to see a situation where there's a bit of tongue in cheek there, but let's go back. I'm actually struggling, and you probably see me glancing over a couple of times here. It's hard to believe the screen. I got 8 out of 9 right, which is remarkable. And even the one that I got wrong is not one that I think a lot of people would have got caught on as well, which is, of course, that crazy battle that we saw went to extra time. And remarkable scenes in the Ulster Championship, Monaghan and Cavan. What a result for Mickey Graham there. What a result for Cavan in general. Probably didn't see that one coming.
No, unbelievable. I actually had something on Saturday morning, so I actually only got to tune in at half time, and Monaghan were well in control as they got to, as they got to half time, even as they got to the first water break in the second half. Sorry, the water break in the second half. They were in control. Now, they weren't playing brilliantly. As I say, I hadn't seen the first half. What I gathered was that they played good stuff in the first half. Obviously, the conditions maybe played a factor in that. But I just felt that Monaghan, Monaghan are a team, to me, who are very, very good when they come up against teams that maybe they'd be expected to get beaten by. So they're well able to compete with the likes of the Dublins and the Kerrys and the Tyrones and the Donegals, because their game plan is such that they're able to stay in these games against bigger teams. Monaghan seem to struggle when they go in against teams, with the greatest respect to Cavan, teams that Monaghan should be beating. Now, I know it's the Ulster Championship and it's there's nothing in it at the end of the day. But I mean, Monaghan, they showed that they were the better team for the first half and probably the first quarter of the second half. But instead of going and extending their lead and putting the game to bed, they just really sat in and, were happy to play this kind of containment game and never went and added to their lead. And that gave Cavan great confidence. And Cavan, to their credit and to Mickey Graham's credit, they chipped away and chipped away and chipped away. And as I was watching it, as Cavan were eating into that 6-7 point lead, all of a sudden you could only see this game going one way. And sure enough, it was an absolutely fantastic equalising score to bring it to extra time. And even though Monaghan pegged on a few scores in the first half of extra time, and again, were leading going into the second half of extra time, you felt there was only going to be one winner, and that was Cavan, because Monaghan just didn't seem to have that killer instinct to go and finish off the game. And I do believe that that's in the Monaghan psyche, that they now have a decent team who play this kind of, we'll stay in a game for as long as possible, but we won't kill it off, which is fine against the big 4 or 5 teams in the country. But against everyone else, Monaghan are well capable of going out and putting games to bed, and they didn't do it the last day, and fair play to Cavan, they took advantage of it. Yeah,
and what an achievement again by Mickey Graham. Like, we've seen his exploits with Mullinloughtay in winter football as well. He's probably a manager that well thrived in it.
He loved it. He
looked so happy as well afterwards.
I don't know him, and I've never spoken to Mickey Graham, but even at half time, they were 2 points down, and I think his earpiece fell out and the camera shot to him and he was laughing with his selector, and they were 2 points down, and you could see he was really enjoying the battle, and I mean, if you have a manager like that if you can play under a manager like that who had obviously full confidence that his team were going to go on and push on here and win this, should have to give you great confidence yourself as a player. But he seems like it's fine to say he's a character, but he knows what he's doing as well. And all of a sudden now Cavan have Antrim in the next round of Ulster, and they could get another day out. They're on that side of the draw where they could possibly look at making an Ulster final. But we'll have to wait and see. But they'll be delighted to be still in the championship, considering where they found themselves 15 minutes into the second half of that game.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that's a result that kind of caught a lot of people. It caught me wrong.
Caught
Were you
me, yeah,
caught
caught
as
me as
well?
well. Yeah, I was caught a good few times this this weekend, Jonathan. But that
One of the
caught me. Yeah, so that was you. That was the only one you got wrong.
Yeah, actually, remarkably so. Yeah,
Fair play, fair play.
the other eight, we don't even have to talk about them. I just got them right. That's all that we need to say, isn't it?
Yeah, I got 4 out of the 9, which was very disappointing. But if I can make a little bit of I
Oh,
suppose a
here we go.
defense for
Here's the
myself.
Kerry man coming out. Come on.
A lot of those games particularly the games in Leinster were very difficult to call. You know, there were a lot of teams on a very even keel, particularly when you looked at their league performances. So, you know, it was just one of those weekends for me. It was it was a toss of a kind in a lot of the games, and unfortunately, I lost the toss on a lot of them, whereas you won them. But yeah, I mean, look, there was some very good results, but I think there was a batch of games there in Leinster particularly. That caught me. So fair play to you. You were spot on. I see
Yeah, I'm
you're
just looking at the
showing the
table
league
here. I
table.
might have to scroll down a bit more, but I don't think my screen is big enough to go down and try and find you. Oh, there you are. I'm only very tongue in cheek. That's you
Yeah,
there in ninth
I might have
position.
to get a new phone to extend my screen, I
But
think.
yeah, no, other players. Fair play to everybody that got involved with us there. I think that's Colin Moran from back home as well, if I remember right, sitting on top as well
Good score, yeah.
with 8 points as well. But like,
I
yeah,
would
no,
say that one score that caught you and Colin, is it?
it appears. I would appear
I
so.
would nearly guess that it was that Monaghan game. I think everyone would have Monaghan down to win that one.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and like I think you look at it the week gone by, but you were right as well. Like there was a number of those games that were, you know, even when we chatted last week on them, they were pretty much flip a coin sort of
Mm,
ones. Particularly the way the league campaign has been extended out with a gap in the middle, and squads are coming back. It's a totally different style of football. The plans that they would have made, managers would have made at the start of the year, are pretty much not null existent, but they have to be altered significantly.
exactly. Yeah.
It's a, like you saw the conditions there. We spoke on Ballybofey. Like that's a completely different game plan that you would have expected had you been playing, you know, in the middle of summer there as well. So fair play to everybody
Yeah.
involved. I just as well, but you know, because the amount of games available was great. The various TV packages and the streaming platforms as well. It was
Yeah.
great because there's people standing out and getting absolutely drowned. And then we almost need wipers on a lot of the camera planes at a time as well. So fair play to everybody. And huge amount of people behind the scenes, groundsmen, and everyone up
Yeah.
and down to get these games on for our entertainment. So I suppose firstly, I'll let you go shoot back in there, but just wanted to say that because some great work going on.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, fantastic. You know, and look, because we can't get to the games, you know, the next best thing is obviously being able to sit by the fire there at the weekend, and the wind was howling outside and we were able to watch it on TV. So fair play to everybody. The one thing about the conditions, Jonathan, I suppose, and the only positive side for, well, particularly I suppose for a neutral supporter when your team isn't involved, is that it probably will lead to mistakes and it will lead to more scores maybe, and it will lead to more exciting games because conditions are so hard to navigate that it is going to cause problems for players, particularly like take for instance Derek Kavanagh's goal for Tyrone that came from a Donegal mistake. That ball slipped through, I can't recall the Donegal defender now, but that slipped through his hands. If that was a bone dry day above in Ballybofey
To
in
flick it,
July,
bounce it back up to himself.
exactly, more than likely that goal wouldn't have. So, you know, he didn't. Derek Kavanagh was on his toes and brilliantly, like his father before him, jinked around the keeper and stuck it into an empty net. But I mean, there you go. That's an example of how the conditions, I suppose, led to a goal that maybe mightn't have been scored on a normal day, if you get me. So, a big factor in this year's championship, both in hurling and football. I mean, we saw Limerick and Tipperary below in Páirc Uí Chaoimh on Sunday, wasn't it? And I mean, it was
Just
torrential. Like it was,
gusts of
it was
rain just like come
wicked.
in.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was that sideways rain that everyone talks about. But
wet
I
rain
mean,
as well, I believe.
wet rain. Yeah, but you know, it definitely is going to. It's definitely going to lead to mistakes happening and more scores in games. Unfortunately, you know, it's if it happens your own team, that's where it can be a bit of a downer. But it's the teams that are the teams that are going to win the Liam McCarthy Cup and the Sam Maguire in these conditions are going to be the team that makes the least amount of mistakes, and concentration levels have to be at an all-time high, particularly with wind and rain and whatever else is going to come, soft pitches. So fair play to the players and fair play to everyone that are making these games happen for us.
Excuse me, even just one thing to add to that as well. I think the importance of set pieces as well, free kicks in particular. We've seen a couple of mistakes from kickouts, and we saw a couple of mistakes from puckouts as well. But by and large, scoreable frees, or even frees that might be 60-40, 70-30 in your favour, they're so crucial now. The game has almost been stripped down to the very, very basics, and not making mistakes and your free taking are hugely important. Yeah,
there's going to be a lot of pressure on your place kickers. If you've got a good, consistent place kicker, obviously it's difficult to kick in conditions like we saw at the weekend. But if you can back, the likes of, Dublin will point to Dean Rock, Kerry of Sean O'Shea, Donegal have a few different free takers by the looks of things from the weekend, particularly Kieran Thompson, who was very impressive. But if you have a guy in your team that can do that in hail, wind or snow or rain or whatever it may be, and he can kick his frees, it's going to be massive for you. So absolutely, it's your set pieces are going to be crucial.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's the game has almost been stripped back to the finest margins, almost there as well. There was something else in my head and it was completely slipped out of my head there now. I got distracted by your wisdom, but we'll carry on. Is there anything else over the last run of the round of games before we look forward? Because we do have a lot of games to look forward to. I suppose we'll probably cover most of them while we're discussing next week's games as well.
Maybe just a word on Armagh. I tipped them as, that was one of the ones I got right, but I have tipped them as a dark horse.
You've been very impressed with them lately, haven't you?
I have, yeah. And I still think they're not quite a cohesive unit at the back. I still think they can be gotten at, and Derry did put it up to them at the weekend. But I think from midfield up, Armagh are as good as what's in Ulster, to be quite honest with you. Now, look, they're on the difficult side of the draw, but I have a sneaky feeling they, again, once-off game in the conditions. I think they can put it up. McGeaney, I think they could put it up to teams. So, yeah, they were the other one for me. I'm only trying to pick the ones I got right now, to be honest with you, Jonathan.
So it's a short conversation then, is it? God, it's 1 week I'm on top. I may as well give it back a little bit. There we go. What's come into my head is before I got distracted by your wisdom there as well. I think the importance of the advanced mark is going to be so crucial over the next couple of weeks as well. It's probably something that we didn't think would be as important, but I think given the weather conditions as well, if you can get that plan right, if you can get direct ball in with a required distance and get your lads scoreable, it's a free scoring opportunity. It's definitely an area to exploit, put it that sort of way.
It is. It's not something that I'm a big fan of, to be quite honest with you, even as a forward, and I played forward all my life and playing with the club still. Maybe I've got one in our club games since the rule came in. I just don't think it's a great rule, to be honest with you. But look, that's a conversation for another day. But you're absolutely 100% spot on. If you can have a guy or two guys in your full forward line who can get that lead out in these conditions, and when they're marked 35, even 30 yards out from goal, they're gimme scores. They're crucial scores, because what it allows you to do is, I know you've only 15 seconds to kick your free or to kick your mark, but if you have a good system in place, it will allow the rest of your players to push up on the kick out, if that's what you're doing, if that's your tactic. A lot of teams seem to be dropping off, but if you want to press up, that guy on the ball can just look around him, say, are we up? And everyone just steps up to one player, kicks it over the bar or wide, whatever it may be. But at least then you're set up to face the next kick out from the opposition keeper. So it's a rule I don't agree with, but definitely, if it's there, you might as well take advantage of it, and definitely teams will be doing that.
Yeah, no, it almost makes the game into, you touched on there as well, it almost goes back to an NFL level as well. Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge NFL fan as well, but you do nearly have your systems in place. You can almost sit back, leave a bit of space inside of you, two good guys inside, or get the required distance, get them to get a clean ball into them, they'll win their ball. all of a sudden then while they're lining up their kick, you can have another set piece defined move or whatnot, for want of a better word, in terms of defending the next goal kicker or whatever. It allows a lot more kind of chess play. I think it takes, I'm not really a fan of it either, I have to say. I think it takes too much of the game away. It's very Aussie rule style as well, I think.
It is, and it's very difficult on defenders, and let's face it, defending is an art. It is an art in itself, and it's very difficult on a back who's sticking tight to his man all day long, and he gets one little lead in him, maybe in the last minute of the game, gets his mark and kicks the winning score. Without him really, that back has followed him all the way out. Okay, he's got to the ball before him, but backs pride themselves on, I take somebody that I played with for years, Mark O'Shea, to me was the best defender I ever played with. And why he was that is because Mark knew when he could win a ball and when he couldn't win a ball with his forward. He used to have particularly brilliant battles with Bernard Brogan. And the way Mark used to play Bernard Brogan was, of course, if the ball was there to be won, he'd go and try and win it. But if Brogan, who was a fantastic forward, was winning that ball in front of Mark wasn't diving in, he wasn't pulling a jersey, he wasn't swinging around his neck.
Just wait, he would allow him on the left foot.
He'd allow Brogan to win the ball, and that's when Mark O'Shea would show his quality, that he's a very good defender. He's got quick feet that can move his hips and his body. He can get a hand in and out. As you said, he can force Brogan onto his less dominant leg and maybe force him to shoot off that one. Whereas now, if Bernard Brogan leads out in front of Mark O'Shea and wins his mark,
he's a free shot and all.
He's a free shot, and Mark doesn't even get a chance to prove what a good defender he is. You know what I mean? And make Bernard work for his score. And that's just an example of two great players who have played the game and had great battles down through the years. But that's taking away from Mark O'Shea's quality and his ability to show everybody, I'm a very good defender and I want to show off my qualities. That wipes that out simply by the fact that a forward has got a couple of meters run on you and can take his mark. I don't believe it's the right rule, but it's there, and teams, you can be sure, will be working it to the max to take advantage of it.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, I think that's going to become one of those things that kind of almost slipped in a way. We're going to see a lot more of it, I think, especially given the conditions as well. But yeah, I think it's going to create a talking point. It's like always, it's something that slips in until you see it at a very key moment, like if it's going to be the winning score at the end or something like that, if it is a standout. We did see a few in the league and you're going, oh, Jesus, is this really what we've come to? But look, here we are. We have to live with it. It definitely does allow for a bit more tactical play. But speaking of tactical play, let's flick forward to next week now as well. You're going to feel more confident about next week now? I'm getting every dig I can in while we're here. I'll pull up the fixtures here.
Yeah, I think I've done mine already, actually.
Oh, very good. There's a man on a mission there now. He was cheesed off.
I got back up on the horse. Got back up on the horse straight away.
Very good. Well, it's down to Munster straight away in next week's Saturday evening. No, Saturday afternoon, actually. 1:15 throw in. It's a game, firstly, just to give everyone that is watching or listening on the podcast, wherever you're getting this, if you're getting it on Player Predictor or any of the social media platforms, it goes out as a podcast, pretty much every platform, so pretty much wherever you get your podcast from. But this game will be shown on RT News now, so you do have that availability to watch the game as well. It's Munster Championship. It could be a hurling game for at times as well. We saw the equivalent last weekend. Limerick came out on top there. Who you aiming for in this one? Where's your hunch telling me in down your neck of the woods?
Yeah, I'm going for Tip in this one, Jonathan. Again, very even game to call, particularly like a few last week's games. But Tipperary showed good form in beating Clare last weekend, and I think they'll be confident taking on Limerick. Excuse me. They got some good performances. Conor Sweeney got a couple of goals, so he's in form. Michael Quinlivan was in good form. Brian Fox, these type of guys. They've got a good team. Tipperary. Limerick beat Waterford well, but wouldn't have been tested really. I know it was on down in Waterford, but
you're grand. It was a good win, all right. Probably didn't expect it to be fair as well.
It was. But I think it'll be even. But I think Tipperary are probably just bringing a little bit more form into this one. So I've gone for Tip in that one.
Yeah, no, I'm going to lean toward Tip as well. I think Tip are one of these teams that got better over the lockdown as well. They got a couple of players back on board, some big names there that you've mentioned already. Don't get me wrong, I think it will be an even enough game, but I am going to lock in Tipperary here myself as well. Just a reminder as well, if you do want to play along, join us in the league. You get to finish ahead of Sean every week as well, which is great as well. Playourpredicts.com is the place to go. You go down to the predict column, and then up top we have the various options here. We are playing the Gaelic football game, but there is the Hurling Championship is available, and the Premier League which is always a big hitter with people. And then it's just a case of flicking which team you think you're going to win. No draws, of course, because we do have a winner on the day mentality, which means we didn't see it yet. I'm sure teams were practicing them, but they will be a penalty shootout sooner rather than later, particularly the way the conditions are as well. I've seen a lot of tight games. We almost got a few, a couple went extra time, but no penalties yet, which is going to create what we spoke about the advance mark, creating a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it will.
I'm waiting for the traditionals to come out in full flow once we have a team knocked out in the championship on penalties. I thought traditionals will turn in their graves.
I thought we were going there with Monaghan and Cavan, but when Cavan got that goal in the second half of extra time, it kind of ruled that out. But we will. You're all stage, and sure enough, like anything else in the GAA, Jonathan, it'll cause discussion and debate, but it's in for the moment because they just have to get these games won on the day, and that's the way it is. It's the dreaded penalty shootout. I'm sure teams are practicing them because it's obviously something. It's not the way they want to win a game or lose a game, unfortunately, but they are going to be faced with it at some stage, you think. So I'm sure they're trying to tick that box along with every other box they have to try and tick. But we'll see. Once it's not in Kerry and Cork on Sunday, I'll be happy.
Perfect, absolutely. Well, we look forward to the next one. It's a game that we have discussed already. Unfortunately, that is a bye for Galway, so that will be removed from this week's competition. Galway will get to sit back beside the fire and watch the other semi-final, which we'll talk about a little later on. It's one of the Sunday's games, so Galway into the Connacht final without kicking football. 2020 in a nutshell. The other game then on Saturday is back up to Ulster again at 1:15 throw-in. This game is, of course, Cavan continuing on that after that great win last week over Monaghan, and they play Antrim, a game that is available to watch on BBC actually. So that's another, if you do want to get your fix of Ulster football, that's where you should head. I think it's my go to go first today, as you went first last time. So I am going to make this one easy, I think, as well. I'm going to continue that Mikey Graham's men are going to continue their good run of form. And I'm probably going to lock in a Cavan victory here myself. And that's my prediction. Anyways, do you concur, Sean, or what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I concur on that one. I'm going to back Cavan that they'll take huge confidence from that win against Monaghan. They were written off. Everyone had them written off. Mickey Graham obviously used that as a great motivator to get them over the line against Monaghan. They'll be in a little bit of different territory now on this weekend because they'll be expected to beat Antrim because, look, Antrim football, I suppose, is still developing and probably still not quite where they want to be. And in a one-off game, look, they'll probably put it up to Cavan for long periods. But you'd expect Cavan now to show that they've brought a lot of confidence from the win over Monaghan. And yeah, I went with Cavan in that one too.
Yeah, no, it's a big game. Well, you spoke about Monaghan, not struggling, that's the wrong word, but finding it potentially a little bit more difficult when they are not going into a game as the underdog. They are the team expected to do all the running, to hit the forward play straight away, be that front runner. It's a different challenge, but they do have a very experienced manager. You go back to his million octa days, and some of the victories that they got there as well were remarkable. You'd have to think that unless we're completely caught with egg on our face, that they will continue that run of form and build a bit of momentum there. The other game,
so.
sadly, the next one we're going to look at is back to Leinster, and I'm not even going to ask you about this one, and I feel terrible because I know there's a lot of good stuff happening in Westmeath, but you cannot look, even on a once-off game, you add in the conditions, you add in the new structure. It's one of these you'd almost put the mortgage on, isn't it, really, sadly? Can't see anything but a Dublin victory here.
It is, yeah. But look, Dublin are going to win and win well. Excuse me. The one thing I will say, look, Westmeath are obviously, they know that unfortunately the look of the draw saw them, come out of the hat against Dublin, and it was always going to be a tough test. But look, they get a crack at the Leinster and All Ireland champions. These Westmeath guys get a chance to go out and test themselves against the best team that possibly has ever played the game. So they'll go out with nothing to lose. Of course, it's going to be a tough day at the office for them, but they're proud men up there, and they'll have a real go, and they'll fight to the bitter end, regardless of what the score is. And at least they're getting a championship game under their belt. Unfortunately for them, it just so happens to be against the raging hot favourites for Leinster and for the All Ireland. So, but look, yeah, Westmeath will go out and have a go, and they'll play for pride in the jersey. But look, Dublin are just far superior to them and will win. I would expect by double scores. If it's not, then I think Westmeath will probably be happy that they've competed at that level. But I can't see anything other than a landslide Dublin victory, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, really, because again, we touched on that a little earlier on with managers, making their plans for the season and then being ripped apart when they saw the way the balls rolled out for them, and they were going to be playing Dublin in the quarterfinal. They would have been no doubt prepared. Again, I don't mean this in a derogative way, but any shape, means, or form, you are against one of the best teams ever. But they would have been preparing for a run in the qualifiers. That option isn't there for them there absolutely. Now as well. So it is more difficult. But that is a 5:15 throw-in on Saturday evening. And it's a game that is available on the Sky Sports Mix channel, which I believe, if I'm right, is available on free-to-air. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think so. I believe it is. I do remember hearing.
It's channel 416 anyway. That's all I can remember.
Perfect. You're well sorted on that regard. So I suppose in terms of our predictions as well, that's one no doubt that we'll be both be going for the same one. There you would have to feel. We continue on then. Next on, it's Leinster as well, and Meath versus Wicklow. Meath making their a bit of a mixed bag, really, in terms of their league campaign. But I'm going to go for them that they are going to get things off on track, that they are going to get a win in Leinster. I'm going to lock in Meath for that one, I have to say. Your thoughts on the game, Sean?
Yeah, I went the same. Wicklow, I have to give massive congratulations to, because they proved me wrong last weekend. I was sure that even though Wicklow had beaten Wexford the weekend before in the last league game, I thought Wexford would turn that around and beat them, but no, Wicklow got the win again, so fair play to them. A great win in the Leinster Championship for them. But I just think, even though Meath, as you said, had a poor Division 1 campaign, they finished it on a bit of a high. They put it up to Dublin in Parnell Park, which they would have been very happy with. And in their last game, they obviously came from behind to draw with Monaghan. So Meath are bringing a little bit of momentum into the game. Of course, Wicklow are as well, and they'll be really buoyed by that win over Wexford. Either at home, again, we go back to home advantage not being a huge thing with no crowds, but it still plays a part, I think. And I just think Meath will have a bit more quality, too much quality, and should win that one. I've locked them in 2, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's actually a home game for Wicklow. It is the Battle of Aughrim that we've seen
more
used. Yeah, so it's a little bit more different than you used to always go to, the big crowded small venue, if that may forgive the contradiction. But home advantage, I think, is a different
story. Yeah,
but you'd still have to fancy Meath on that one, you have to say. And that is actually, it's a game on Sunday. 1:30 throws in on Sunday, and it's one of those available on the Sky Go package, the streaming service there as well. So that's where you'll get your Leinster football fixed early Sunday afternoon there. But yeah, it's a game you'd probably have to fancy Meath to do enough in there.
I think Meath will still do it, yeah. Even though I thought they were at home now, but I still think they'll have enough for Wicklow.
You'd have to agree there. We continue on in Leinster then as well. It is, I think this game is going to be tighter than a lot of people. Could be one of the tightest games of the weekend this it is, of course, Laois and Longford. I have to say, thinking of this one last night and going through it, this is one that I might change my mind closer to the time as well. Of course, just a reminder as well, you do have up to 5 minutes before throw in to change your mind again. So just pop on to playerpredict.com. You can edit your changes right up to the throw-in time there as well. I'm leaning towards Laois, but I wouldn't put. I spoke a couple of games earlier on where you put the mortgage on it. I wouldn't put it on this one, but I am going to lock in Laois for this one.
Yeah, I would be along the same lines as you. Again, Longford. They beat Louth, didn't they? Was it Louth they beat?
Yeah, they
last
did.
weekend. Yeah, and again, they proved me wrong. I thought Louth would have won that. They didn't. Longford got a great win there. So again, similar enough to the Wicklow-Meath game, Longford will be bringing a game as well. In what we can't forget as well about Wicklow is that they'll be coming in having played a game, whereas Meath are kind of will be there sitting there cold a little bit. Now, I still think Meath will have too much. Longford will be bringing in a game as well under their belt into play Laois. Laois finished their league campaign. They got a draw in the last game, I think, to survive. So Mike Quirk will be obviously looking to make a good start in the championship.
You Kerry men are everywhere.
Yeah. I think I'd be along the same lines as you, Jonathan. I think Laois will probably have enough. I think there's going to feel Laois won't be caught and they'll have enough to beat Longford. But again, similar enough to that Meath Wicklow one, the underdog is coming in with a game under their belt. They'll be confident after their win. But I just think that Laois and Meath will probably have too much for Wicklow and Longford respectively.
Yeah, no, that's one we agree on as well. We actually seem to be agreeing a good bit. So maybe you're just being smart and just copying my homework this week after.
Well, I should have copied you last weekend, shouldn't I?
Very good, very good. We move up. Before this goes anywhere more down the gutter, we'll move up north again, back up to the Ulster Championship, and it's again, this is another one that I feel is tightly tied. I have to say it's Fermanagh versus Down. Just quickly, actually, I don't think I said on the Longford Laois game. That's at 1 o'clock, 1:30 throw-in even on Sunday, and it's another game available on GAA Go just in case people are looking to watch that game. Good few games as you would expect on 1:30, but another game that is on 1:30 as well and is up in the Ulster Championship, which is very, very competitive as we saw last week. But this is another difficult game, I have to say, in terms of we still don't know what way Fermanagh are fixed really after. Inconvenience is too strong a word, but the way the end of the league campaign was a bit dramatic for them, and there was a lot of players missing, coming and going. It had to disrupt their plans a lot. So it'll be interesting to see how the impact has on them in terms of the championship. It's another tough one to predict, I have to say, Sean. What are your thoughts on the game? Yeah,
it's a tight one. Normally, I would fancy Down to do it, but I just don't know. I think this one could be similar to Cavan and Monaghan, where everyone would be writing off Fermanagh. And, Ryan McMenamin, he knows the Ulster Championship so well. He'll have these Fermanagh guys absolutely ready to rock. He'll have seen this as an opportunity to win an Ulster Championship match. Down are okay. They're no world beaters by any stretch of the imagination. And they can be caught on any given day, particularly in the Ulster Championship. So I'm going to actually plump, and I know I take on board what you said, that Fermanagh have had a disrupted preparation in terms of COVID and all that going on. But I just feel this one could be similar to the way Cavan got one over in Monaghan. So I'm actually going to plump for Fermanagh in this one. I think Fermanagh could cause an upset here and win that one.
Yeah, I have to say I'm a little bit surprised by that, and the only reason I'm surprised by that as well is that I thought I was the only one that would have edged towards as I lock in for Mana here. This was the one I just fancy the bit on. It doesn't really make sense, but and again, not in a disrespectful way. I just think that they're probably it's the world against them mentality. They didn't really. They felt like they were probably weren't looked after the best in terms of that Clare game in particular in the league. And I just fancy that there's going to be a bit of bounce out of them. Like there's, as you said, a manager there that knows it inside, that knows how to get one over people and use that to his advantage. We go back to the famous. I'll put my screen back on for this one just to do it justice. We've one of the great, I think, All Ireland memories is people collect Sam Maguire and the rubbing the beard then as well. Probably bad memories for you guys as well. But
yes,
there's an age to him that I just think he's going to get enough on half one here on Sunday. I just feel that I just think there might be a bounce in this tail yet, and I am going to go along with you as well. I pick Fermanagh in this game, and it's a game that we can watch on BBC as well. So fair play to BBC. You have to say they've been really pulling on the fire. There's some great coverage last week as well. But I'm a little bit surprised in a way, as I said, that we both agree on it. But here we are. That is both of us going for Fermanagh in the Ulster quarter final. So I didn't see that one coming. But I think we're both thinking on the same mindset as well there.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a shock up until we get to the big games. I think that there's going to be a shock every weekend, if not two shocks, when all these games are going on. And just that one jumped out at me when I was looking at it. I just thought, you know what? Yeah, I think that could be a shock. Would it be a major shock? I mean, have Down proven anything in the last few years that would be a shock? Probably not. And Fermanagh are probably looking at it like that. That they haven't drawn Tyrone, they haven't drawn Donegal. It's Down at the end of the day, and I think Fermanagh have every chance of winning that.
Yeah, so there we are. That's us both locked in with Fermanagh on that one. The next one, I'm probably at a little bit of at risk of cheesing off my Roscommon side of my mother's family, but this in my mind, although it is a 1-1 tie in Hyde Park on Sunday, the RT game as well. I'm going to make this one nice and easy and just do that for this game.
You can't go anymore. You can't do anymore.
No, cheesing off all the Roscommon side of my family, as I said.
Yeah,
I cannot say
look,
anything.
It's hard. Look, Roscommon or dogged, Jonathan. They're, what you're going. They give you exactly what it says on the tin. They will, and look, they've caused upsets in Connacht many a time. And Mayo certainly didn't set the world alight by putting away Leitrim last weekend. But when you add everything up and you look at both starting 15s and both squads, what they have available to them, you can only see a Mayo win. Mayo would have got rid of a lot of cobwebs. I know they obviously had the 2 league games and they had a great battle with Tyrone. James Horton, was it 7 championship debutants he put out against Leitrim? 6 or 7?
Yeah, 7, yeah.
Along those lines. Yeah. So they all would have had a game under their belt, even though, a game they would have been expected to win anyway. So they have their championship debut made. They'll be raring to go on Sunday. Roscommon will be ready for the battle too, but I just think that Mayo have quality in key positions, particularly where Roscommon just don't have it. And for me, I locked Mayo in there as well to get to the Connacht final.
We're going to have to stop this now as well. We seem to be agreeing with a lot of games there now.
It's not like us.
No, it's not, because we usually you're the one that have your homework done and have them picked in advance, and then I just pluck them out of thin air really as we go along. But we are agreeing on a few there. I suppose the longer the championship goes on as well, we probably will disagree a bit more as it becomes more intense and knockout. But this is a next one here now that I'm looking at, and I'm just trying to find the plus 20 points victory option for here, because I can't find it any place. I must get on to the developers here, lad. You were telling me that you expected Kerry to win by 30 points. That's what you said earlier on, isn't it?
I'll have to. I'm glad these are recorded, Jonathan, because I'll have to plead
the fifth
and check that. Certainly not. No. Do I expect Kerry to win? I do.
It is, of course, sorry, just to set
yeah.
the scene, set that people mightn't get our jokes. It is, of course, the Kerry Cork game that is the added bonus. Probably the biggest one in years, maybe the biggest one since the All Ireland final, in terms of it being a one-off tie and the way things are lined up.
Tie. Yeah, knockout. Yeah. Yeah. No, look, I expect. Look, Kerry have obviously dominated Munster for quite a while, and they've dominated Cork. You can delve into real detail about you're talking about the Division 1 champions playing the Division 3 champions. Should Cork be down in Division 3 in the first place? They shouldn't, but that's where they found themselves. Ronan McCarthy would have taken great positives from their performance last year against Kerry in the Munster final, where they ran them to a goal, the closest they've ran them in a long time. They performed pretty well in the Super 8s. They put it up to Dublin for a long period. They lost to Tyrone. They lost to Roscommon by a goal, but played okay in those 3 games. So it was improvement. So he would have gone away over the winter and he would have taken those positives. And the number one thing for Cork would have been to get out of Division 3, win it if they could, which they did, and they won it quite comfortably. So they're back up to Division 2 next year, where they'll be playing better quality games. And obviously, he would have been looking down the tracks and drew Kerry in the Munster semi-final, knowing that he could have a real crack off them with maybe a run in the qualifiers and maybe another appearance in the Super 8s if they were to lose. Now, obviously, with the year we have, it's a completely different kettle of fish. He can have a crack off them, but unfortunately, if he loses, he's gone. But in a way, I think that maybe plays into Cork's barrel a little bit, because there's no pressure. They can just have a go. Kerry will be expected to win. I know Cork are carrying a few injuries and they've lost a few guys from last year, particularly their goalkeeper Mark White, who I think is immigrated to the States. He was a key factor in last year's Munster final, because he's got a fantastic kick out. He's been replaced by the Taoiseach's son, actually, Micheál Martin, who's gone in there to goals. They've chopped and changed their team quite a bit, particularly at the back, Cork. And up front, they're still depending on the likes of Mark Collins, Paul Kerrigan, Luke Connolly. Brian Hurley is coming in off the bench. Midfield, they're very physical with Ian Maguire and Paul Walsh. So they're going to cause Kerry problems. The difficulty for Cork is, can they cause Kerry enough problems consistently over 70 minutes? I don't think they can. And on the flip side, I think Kerry particularly have the forwards to cause those Cork backs a lot of problems. Kerry have shown in their 2 league games since lockdown, since we came back playing, that they've developed a really stringent defensive system, that they play on the counter attack. They put pressure on the guy on the ball, and it seems to be evolving nicely, even though they've only tried it for 2 games against Monaghan and Donegal. So I think, weighing everything up, yes, I would expect Kerry to win. I don't expect him to win by what you've just said here in terms of
that might have been a bit of hyperbole been used there, just a
tad. I've locked Kerry in on our prediction game, because I do think they just have enough for Cork. And look, it may be people watching this will think I'm doing the old Kerry Yerism. I genuinely haven't. I think Cork can put it up to them, but again, will they have enough quality and enough consistency over the 70 minutes to beat Kerry? Probably not. So I would expect Kerry to win.
Yeah, you'd have to go along with that as well. You have to say, I do, in a strange way, I think it is a small bit of in Cork's favour, that the fact that this is a semi-final, not a final, it'll just take a little bit of the pressure coming off, and then it really feels like a last run at it, one last stab that they can really throw everything at Kerry. I expect them to do so, but I have to say that I cannot see anything bar a Kerry victory here. I think they just have, as you touched on earlier, they have too much firepower up front, even when things mightn't necessarily be going right for them. They just have players that will be able to hit the clutch scores if need be, and I am going to lock in Kerry here as well. It is, of course, just to get the P's and Q's out of the way, it is throw in at 4:00 on Sunday, and it's on RT as well, so that's where you can watch that one. So we all think that Kerry will be going along to the Munster final yet again.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's a difficult one as well. You'll have to have a couple of screens on Sunday, Jonathan, because it's clashing with a big game in the Premier League as well.
Yeah, there's
Liverpool
a
and Man
there's
City.
there's a hell of a lot of sport going on, as always the
There
way
is.
really. But
Yeah.
isn't it great that we we have it here
Yeah.
to be having
No, but
conversations?
the news from the Kerry camp is positive. They obviously were delighted with their Division 1 win. Everyone is fit and healthy. They've got a few players back in Jack Barry and Stephen O'Brien. Paul Geaney and James O'Donoghue were making good progress from what I've been told. Whether they'll have enough progress made to make the squad for Sunday remains to be seen. I think it's touch and go, but they'll certainly be back for a Munster final if they can get there. So I just even think, Kerry's bench has been strengthened in the last few weeks by players coming back. So for me, it just adds up to a Kerry victory, but they'll have to work seriously hard for it up there in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. I know there won't be the crowd up there. The Cork locals won't be shouting in over the terraces at them, but I just think they'll just have too much for Cork on the day.
Yeah, no, I think it's another one that we concur in there, I have to say. And then it is the last one of the match day for us that we need to give our predictions on. It's back to Leinster. It's Offaly Kildare. I think this has potential to be a very close game, Sean, I have to say.
Yeah, Offaly, again had a poor league. Survived by what they did pre-COVID. They had 5 points in the league before COVID and did enough to survive, but were poor after COVID. But they got their win last weekend over Carlow, I believe it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, John Mahan got on board. So
yeah, that's right, John Mahan. So yeah, look, they again, they'll be very happy with their win in the Leinster Championship. But I just think, Jack O'Connor, my old manager, Kildare, even though they've been hit and miss in the league, Jack is a shrewd man when it comes to championship football, and I just think Kildare will probably, after a battle, I would think, progress in that one, and I locked Kildare in on that one.
Yeah, I have to say I'm going to do the same here as well. I think Offaly might run them closer a while, but I think Kildare will have too much in the end. It's a late game actually on Sunday, 5:30 throw-in. It's on GAA Go. But that is my predictions locked in. You've already locked yours in. I'll save my predictions here.
I locked mine in, yeah.
Predictions have been saved. And of course, don't forget you do have the opportunity to change them right up until 5 minutes before throw-in. So, and again, anybody that wants to come along, just go to playerpredict.com and then you can just go down to the predict tab, and we're looking at the Gaelic Football Championship. The Hurling Championship is available there, as is the Premier League as well. Both leagues are finished to date. Just on that then, before I quickly let you go, Jack O'Connor, he seems like from the outset a remarkable, shrewd guy that you would almost run through mountains for, seems to know the game inside out as well. I suppose, is he known as the guy that kind of brought Kerry into the 21st century in terms of adding a bit of defensive nous as well to the game as well, added a bit of steel after those couple of sticky results against Tyrone, how they adapted their game, and not maybe the old traditional Kerry football, but added that kind of half step in between, if you want to call it for a better word. Must have been a great manager to be involved with.
Yeah, 100% agree with that, Jonathan. He came in 2004 and obviously had seen Kerry lose in 2002 to Armagh and lose in 2003, lost to Armagh in the final, lost to Tyrone in the semi-final. But I suppose, the Tyrone game was the one in particular where they had just, I suppose, brought the game to a different level. And
Kerry, that clip, sorry to put in, that always comes back to me when I think of that game. I think it's Owen Brosnan around the halfway line, and he's about 45 Tyrone lads out of it.
I know.
And the game has been going back and forth. There hadn't been the typical kind of back and forth, hadn't been able to make any progress. So he decides, to hell with this, I'm going to head down and try and bull him way through, and he gets absolutely I think Paddy said, shoved out of the way. I'm paraphrasing here now to keep the P's and Q's clean, to be thrown out like a loaf of bread. But that's the one memory from that game that always will step into my mind, that particular moment of the game where, okay, this isn't going to work. We need to adapt here. These new kids on the town have put up another challenge that we're not able to get through at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what Jack did was he he just found the balance. He found the balance between playing a more I won't say defensive game, because we never overly dropped back in numbers or there was anything like that. I think Jack just decided that the middle eight of his team were going to be real workhorses and guys who could break the lines, win breaking ball off kickouts, tackle really hard, support runners. He really focused in on that middle eight and brought in the likes of Paul Galvin, Liam Hassett was still on the scene, but he pushed Liam onto the 40. Owen Brosnan being more consistent player in the team. He had obviously Darragh O'Shea in midfield, William Kirby joined Dara. His half-back line was just, sensational. He brought Aidan O'Mahony in to wing back. He had Tomas O'Shea on the other wing, and he had Seamus Moynihan at centre. So all of a sudden, that was a fulcrum of a real solid middle eight of your team. And of course, then inside he had your quality, the All-Ireland final that year against Mayo. He had Gooch in one corner, Darragh Kinnear was full forward, and he went with Johnny Crowley in the other corner, all great ball winners and great scorers. So it really showed that Jack stuck to the traditional side of things for Kerry. We were still a kicking team. We still wanted to put up big scores, but he just brought a bit of steeliness and a bit of a real hunger and work rate, particularly in the engine room of the team. And I think that's what put us on the road to success. And I mean, he won in 04, lost in 05, won again in 06, then he stepped away and Pat O'Shea came in. And it just showed, what a great manager Jack was when he came back in 09 and won again. So definitely one of the best managers I've played under. I've been lucky enough to play under some very good ones, and Jack O'Connor's right up there. And if he's given time in Kildare, look, it's just unfortunate he's in a province where the best team, again, as I say, to possibly ever play the game are just head and shoulders above everyone else. But I've no doubt that if Jack is given time up there, then he'll bring Kildare as close as he possibly can to Dublin. Now, how close that will be in the long run remains to be seen. But I definitely think he can turn Kildare into a challenger in Leinster. I've no doubt about it.
Yeah, you'd have to say, had there been the format that we're used to in terms of the qualifiers, they're a team that you would not like to get drawn against Kildare. The experience that he'll be able to bring, and of course, we've seen big moments at home games in Newbridge as well. Newbridge or no place or whatnot, and it always seems to be a team that probably just need an extra couple of percent. They've always seemed, you go back to the Miko days, even I didn't really feel like I thought they were quite unlucky. I know Galway picked them a couple of times in big games as well, but you always felt like they were so close. They were such a brilliant team as well. Like that team at the end of the 90s, mid-noughties, early noughties were fantastic.
They were, and you have to take into account Jack O'Connor was probably a really sought after manager when he stepped away from his Kerry under-20 role. So for Kildare to be able to get him to go to Kildare, to go up there and take over, was a huge coup for them. But on the other side of that,
he saw something.
Jack O'Connor isn't going to get into his car up to Kildare 2-3 times a week if he felt that there was no quality to work with. There's loads of quality in Kildare, and I think they have the right man to harness it. Kieran McGeeney brought them on another bit, probably brought them as far as he could. Maybe they needed a fresh approach, a fresh voice. And I think Jack O'Connor ticks all those boxes, and he'll definitely improve them. And absolutely, look, he would have seen the draw, expected them to get over Offaly. Where that's going to take them next in the Leinster Championship, I'm not sure. Are they on the same side of draw as Dublin, or is there a potential Leinster final there for them? But if they were to come out the wrong side of that game, then obviously he would have been targeting the qualifiers and to get to the Super 8s. But that's not the case this year. So he's just going to have to take it one game at a time and see where they end up.
Absolutely. Well, it promises to be another fascinating weekend of football. There's some big games there in between, you have to say. There's a lot of ties that we're kind of 50-50. I might even change my mind.
Absolutely, yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Once you get once the video is released, you're just going to copy all my answers as well. Like that's.
or else I played a dummy on you, and
That's it. Yeah. You've gone on. It wouldn't be like a Kerry man to pull a fast one, was it? Hashtag Yera. But yeah, no. So it promises to be a fascinating. Do try and get involved as well. We'll have a bit of crack. We pull up the league table there. I'm pretty certain that's a teammate from back home, Colin Moran. I'm pretty sure it is. I'll find out for definite after this as well. But get involved. Free to play, of course. Just go to playerpredict.com and just input your choices there, who you think is going to be victorious. It is a little bit different in the fact that we don't have the draw option. You do have for the likes of the Premier League games and stuff like that, or for years gone by, you do have the draw option. But of course, with penalty shootouts being added, there's no time or no opportunities for that. I'm half debating into my head where I should land you with you and pull you up the hurling championship, but that might just be a bit too cruel altogether. Yeah, I can see that face there.
Look,
it's not a house alarm. It's not something you hit someone with.
I could do it, but it'd be like throwing a dart at a dartboard. It could end up anywhere. But,
yeah, of course. What I will say is they are available to play along there as well if you want to select the hurling championship as well. We might try and do a show soon on that. Not maybe with Sean.
Or I could just get really lucky like you last week.
Okay. Oh Jesus! Shots fired. Well, look, our broken clock is right twice a day. Don't ever forget that.
Absolutely.
Listen, Sean, I'll let you go on. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
We look forward to another weekend of fun debates and, please God, loads of good football. Thanks for watching. It is available, of course, on all the social media platforms and on playerpredict.com. Do join along and have some fun with us. But for now, stay safe, folks, and we'll talk to you all soon.